I'm Kelly Johnston. I'm with Kawako Resource Conservation and Development Council. We're located here in Birmingham, Alabama. We serve a 5-county area, which is Jefferson, Blount, Shelby, Walker, and Chilton counties. And what we do is we generally act as a focal point for projects where you're putting together federal, state, local, municipalities and agencies and kind of assist them and promote the orderly growth, development, and conservation of natural resources. And obviously, forestry is one of our most valuable natural resources in this area. The first half of the program is we will be discussing the Forestry Action Plan. The Forestry Commission is going to give you an overview of that. And then in the second half, after a nice break, we will have roundtable discussions talking about how to bring the Forestry Action Plan into the future. Make sure that I've covered everything. Please take advantage of your refreshments and turn off your cell phones while you're here. Certainly right now we want to thank Jefferson County Environmental Services for providing the facility. And this is actually funded through a grant from the U.S. Forest Service through the National Association of RC&Ds to encourage people to talk about the orderly development of forests in their area. So our first speaker up is going to be Mr. Hitt with the Forestry Commission.
But before we do that,
Before Arthur starts, I just want to say good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you coming to learn about our Forest Action Plan. And thank you, Kelly, so much for doing this and giving us this opportunity to share our plan. And we welcome questions and input. And before we go into our Forest Action Plan, we wanted to show you a little bit about the Forestry Commission and who we are. And Arthur's going to do that.
I'm taking Jason Dockery's place on the agenda. I was commandeered at the spur of the moment to come speak to y'all, mainly because I'm the action part of the Forest Action Plan at the state office in Montgomery. So I'm glad y'all are here. I'd like to tell you something about the Forestry Commission. Very briefly, we were established as a state agency in 1924, and we are the commission part of the Alabama Forestry Commission comes from the fact that we are overseen by a board of commissioners. We have 7 commissioners that look after the Forestry Commission. Our mission is to protect, to serve, and educate the public. We protect Alabama's forests from harmful agents such as fire, insect, and disease, and sometimes mean people. We also serve and help landowners to carry out forest management through technical assistance, and we educate the public as to the value of our forests in order to help ensure a healthy economy and environment. This video that we're fixing to see was put together by a committee of partners from the Alabama Forestry Commission, the Department of Conservation, and I think they were the main people involved in it. But it was called the Alabama Technical Assistance Team, and it's going to give you an overview of the Forestry Commission and what we do.
The Alabama Forestry Commission recognizes the importance of maintaining the state's forests for timber, wildlife, water quality, and recreation for current as well as future generations. The AFC also understands the value of our forest to Alabama's economy and our environment in maintaining a high standard of living. The men and women of the AFC provide Alabama citizens, especially forest landowners, with year-round wildfire protection 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and assists forest owners with their land management objectives. Equally important, the Forestry Commission administers programs that enhance the quality of life in urban and wildland-urban interface settings. Whether you own a small or a large tract of land, AFC associates can provide you with the assistance you need for both your short and long-term forest management goals, forest stewardship advice and plans, third-party forest certification programs, guidelines for wildlife enhancement and habitat management, insect and disease assessment and control recommendations, technical assistance for cost share programs, as well as prescribed burning and fire lane construction. The Forestry Commission website at www.forestry.alabama.gov also offers a vast library of educational resources and opportunities, not only for landowners, but also for teachers and students. If you're looking for information on selling your timber, timber management recommendations, or ways to protect your home and forest land from wildfires, the AFC website can help. The site also provides current forest resource and marketing information, timber laws and tax tips, as well as a statewide service providers database for Alabama landowners and additional links to other informational resources. Additionally, the Commission also partners with other ALTAT members and organizations each year to conduct landowner tours, educational workshops, and seminars on a variety of forestry topics. Since 1983, the Forestry Commission has published Alabama's Treasured Forests, a 32-page, full-color magazine. Designed to educate forest landowners on proper forest management techniques, this excellent resource also provides information on wildlife habitat, water quality issues, and other forestry-related topics. This publication is circulated 3 times per year and is available at no cost to landowners and educators. It is also posted on the AFC website with all issues available electronically back to the year 2000. Additional information regarding the services offered by the Alabama Forestry Commission can be found on our website or by contacting your local Alabama Forestry Commission office.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Varner. I'm the Stewardship Coordinator for the Forestry Commission. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce our Assistant State Forester, Dan Jackson. Come on in now, it's your turn.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. As Alan said, my name is Dan Jackson. I'm the Assistant State Forester for the Alabama Forestry Commission. And based down in Montgomery, but I guess I have a unique tie-in with all this in that I spent 20 years in Walker County, and so I was very involved and remember some good old days from working with the Quack RC&D. A great bunch, and just really enjoyed it over the years, and I know they do great and wonderful things, especially as it pertains to our conservation of our natural resources and promoting them. And so with that, let me just tell you a little bit about how our Forest Action Plan came about, and that'll lead, I guess, a little bit of a foundation for what, this was all originated from the 2008 Farm Bill, which gave the direction and instruction for the states to develop these Forest Action Plans. And there's a lot of tie-in with the Forest Action Plans. In fact, it started off, I remember it being called the statewide forestry assessment and all, and the name kind of changed in the early days and all, but so there was the direction to create it by the USDA, and of course further guidance came to us from the U.S. Forest Service, and we have to reference this thing continuously for a lot of our grants that we seek and all, and I'm sure some of y'all may have even tied into the Forest Action Plan in y'all's work and all. In 2009, Neil Letson, who was Assistant Division Director for us and handled a lot of our management at the state office, was tasked with developing this, seeing the creation of it, I guess you could say, and did a great job for us. And he had, one of the main things that was started out was that we had a stakeholder meeting, and it was there in Montgomery. And we tried to canvass out to as many partners and people that we knew of that would have a tie-in to promoting our forest resource in the state. And there were 27 stakeholders that showed up for that time, and they listed and came up with about 865 survey responses and items that they thought were relevant to our forest. And Of that group, there's probably about 37 subject matter experts. That's anybody from foresters, wildlife biologists, researchers from some of the universities, and just several others as well. And as you can see, there's about 33 organizations represented there, some state, but I think probably what looks best about that is there were 12 nonprofits. I don't really know, I can't speak to how other southern states especially, what their partners and how they drew them in, but I think that speaks well of Alabama that we have that much involvement, and still do to this day, from our NGOs and their interest and concern about the forest action plans. So, I think somewhere along the way, Neil, in his working with the document and putting it together, we came up with the name of should be Forest at the Crossroads is the name of it. And I think you've probably got some handouts that you'll see. It's accessible from our website. And there's several different, the 9 threats that you'll hear about here in a little bit have been identified from that beginning meetings, and there were 216 strategies that were identified of how to address these things. And I can't stand before you and say we have met every one of those, but it certainly has given us a operating plan of what to look for and how to start trying to address and take care of these 9 threats that we face in Alabama. And we still have stakeholders involved with it. And of course, we know going forward it's up for renewal, and we're at our state office, we're looking at how we're going to proceed with that and do the update to it. And because I'm sure it'll still be required by USDA. It's been a good document. I can't think of how many times I've gone to it and looked up parts in it and that sort of thing. It's been good for us to help us sustain and expand our economic benefits as far as the state and the nation, and how our contributions to that economic impact is from the forest resource. It's been a good guidance for that. And it's also helped us conserve and increase the state's natural resources, and as far as to try to achieve no net forest land loss. That's probably, I don't want to steal Alan's thunder here, but that's the biggest threat we have faced, and will continue to face, just with demographics and all, is the loss of forest land. It's a ever-present concern for us, and obviously we have strategies identified for that. So with that, that was just a brief overview about the Forest Action Plan, Alabama's Forest Action Plan. If you've never looked at it, I'd highly encourage you to. The NAS, here's you can print it off. It's not too incredibly thick, but the National Association of State Foresters, and then ASF, they even have a website that you can go on there and look at any state's Forest Action Plan. And but Alabama's, I think, is we're quite proud of it, and it's a good document, and certainly something. It's always and it's not a static thing too. That's probably the other biggest thing I would tell you. It's a living, breathing thing, and ever changing, and certainly we face the update with it, and maybe some of these threats have changed and all, and the priorities of them, but we'll certainly consider that in the days ahead. So thank you very much, and with that, I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Varner.
It's very nice bedtime reading, but it does have some key ideas in here that we're going to talk about. Leanna's going to hand out a brochure that lists our 9 threats, and we're going to talk about those here in just a minute. It also gives you the web address to find a copy. It also gives you a web address to find a copy where the Forest Action Plan sits, Forest at the Crossroads. I was part of the team that helped put this together. And Dan made reference to a survey. We mailed out survey cards. We asked folks to give us comments on what they thought the issues were in the state. We received 865 back. Why do we do the forest assessment? Why do we do this whole document? The Farm Bill mandate that we did it. If we did not do it, we would not be eligible to receive funding. So we're going to talk about some conditions, some trends, the threats, strategies, updates every 5 years. That was not defined here, but since this has come out, it has been defined that every 5 years we will update this document. And then the partners we use to do this. So during that day, we had folks come into the commission's office. That's who I am, by the way. In those focus groups, we met and talked about urban growth. We talked about fragmentation, invasive species, changing markets, insects and diseases, wildfires, storms, which is weather conditions, of course, air quality, and then climate change. Okay, I just listed those 9 threats. So each one of those threats, we found ways to address those through different strategies. Urban growth and development. Well, we have lost some acres to urban growth. And the reality is we're not going to stop urban growth. We're going to have more people. Our cities are going to get larger. So the real question is, how are we going to manage this urban growth? Well, how can we reduce the impact of urban growth on our forest resource? I think everyone in the room agrees we want to keep our forests. We want our forests to be active and managed and working forests. Well, communities can maybe expand their urban forests. That's another component to consider. And then, of course, we can talk about the urban groups, partners that we can work with. Fragmentation and parcelization. You break up a forest into smaller pieces, then that has impacts on wildlife populations. It has impact on the health of the forest. So how do we deal with a situation like that? Well, like we said with the urban side, the population is going to increase. The average size of land holdings is shrinking. Of course, the whole landscape of the forest changes as the parcels become smaller, and they're not as healthy. They can be very susceptible to disease when they're smaller. So how do you handle that? Well, we've got to find a way to increase forest sustainability with the activities that we do as a commission. And one of the things we're talking about, and let me step back a second,